With Twisters coming out this weekend, I thought now is a good time to revisit the original film, so let's review. So Twister is about these storm chasers that goes out in the Midwest and create this device that can monitor tornadoes. And among these storm chasers is a couple that is going through a divorce right now, but they are soon brought back together when the machine that is made by the wife of, or former wife of this couple, played by Helen Hunt, and Bill Paxton's character, he comes in to get the divorce papers and have them signed, and he bought his fiance. But the fact that the device that the two of them have been working on is finally built and can finally monitor the tornadoes, he stays behind and help her. But while all this is going on, they come back together as a couple. Now, let me just say, this is probably the second time in my life ever watching this movie, because I remember the first time I watched this movie was doing a science class back in high school. And when I watched it, I thought, oh, that was a fun little entertaining film right there, but haven't really seen it ever since. But it does have a reputation of being one of those movies that came out in the 90s that everybody likes, and plus it was part of that trend of making disaster movies that everybody was trying to make, and it was inevitable that someone would make a disaster movie about tornadoes. But after revisiting the film years after I saw it back in high school, I'd say this is still a pretty entertaining film. Do I think it's perfect? No, but it is an entertaining film, and yes, there are some science mumbo jumbo that the writers of this movie probably took liberties with and probably doesn't make sense with the actual science that pertains to tornadoes. But Laura Dern and Bill Paxton, rest in peace, are definitely the center of this story, because you really do see a relationship that crumbled and comes back together after they go through this entire experience together, and it brings them back together, and it just reignites that spark that the two of them had, even if the two of them spend the majority of the movie just arguing with each other, being at each other's throats, and they can't get along. But that's just kind of the charm of how the two of them got together and why they belong together. And this is probably the world's most understanding fiance, because she is there. She didn't ask to be there, but she's there with Bill because he's trying to get the divorce finalized. But then she's there in the midst of all this tornado madness, and then she sees their relationship, and coincidentally, she's a therapist, so she's just there analyzing the two of them and see, like, you know what? I don't belong in this world, and the two of them, they do really do belong to each other, despite how crazy the two of them are about each other. But Helen Hunt and Bill Paxton, they are good in this film, and it's just crazy to see Bill Paxton in this movie, because anytime I watch really any movie with Bill Paxton, I'm reminded that he is no longer with us, and so, yeah, this is definitely one of his most memorable performances right here. And if by any chance I accidentally call Helen Hunt Lauren Dern, I apologize, because for some reason I just get those two women mixed up. But I love Helen Hunt's character's backstory in this movie, because she has a whole thing in the beginning where her father got killed by a tornado. He got blown away by a tornado, and so she's still carrying that trauma and trying to make sense of all that, and make sense why she's in this field, because she's trying to take tornadoes head on. But I do love Helen Hunt's whole origin within this movie, because it's at the beginning of the movie and she's carrying on the trauma she has from when she was a child, from when her father got blown away by a tornado, and it makes sense why she's in this line of work, because she's trying to make sense of all of it. She essentially wants to beat the tornado just so that she can, basically overcome that trauma. Now, of course, I gotta give glory to the late Philip Seymour Hoffman, who I also forgot was in this movie. And again, he's another one of those actors where anytime I see him in a movie, I'm reminded that he is no longer with us. And you can tell that he was clearly having fun with this performance. But overall, nothing much I can really say or offer about this movie. I mean, it's an entertaining film. It's not perfect, but it's entertaining. The tornado destruction is fun to look at, and especially during the climax of the movie where they have one last shot to get Dorothy, the device they built, within to the tornado, and everything, even the kitchen sink is being thrown at them, and at one point they even go through a house, which is probably one of my favorite moments within the movie. And I also got to give glory to everyone behind the camera of this movie, and even the two leads, because they went through multiple injuries, infections, and at one point they didn't even get along during the making of this movie, even at the point where they made a Universal Studios ride attraction, and they do an intro for that ride, and they're not even on camera together. They are filmed separately. But hey, this is the type of breed of filmmaking that just doesn't exist no more, and sometimes it can be toxic, it can be painful, but sometimes a good movie, an entertaining movie, can come out of it. I'm gonna give Twister the thumbs up emoji.